عزا على صحب فقدناهم على صحب لهم جرح عميق ما ذكرناهم
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الصلاة والسلام على رسوله الكريم سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين وبعد اللهم صل وسلم على عبدك ورسولك محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وعلى أصحابه الكريم الأكرمين اللهم أعز الإسلام والمسلمين. Inshallah, today we'll be covering the life of one of the greatest commanders of Islam, who went from a small teenager in Mecca who would occasionally defend the Muslims against the enemies while they were under persecution, becoming one of the greatest commanders of Islam, and defeating one of the greatest empires at the time, the Persians, who controlled so much land, and they considered the Arabs their slaves. They were destroyed by the Muslims. Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas radiallahu anhu, he was someone who first became Muslim at the age of 17. He was a very, very young person. Majority of people, I think, on this community, in this server, will be a very, very young age. They'll be only, 17 or 16, 15, and so on. Sa'd ibn Waqqas, he was one of the first people to accept Islam at the age of 17. He was educated, he was trained in Dar al-Arqam, where Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and the other Sahaba would stay, basically, to learn Islam from Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, learn the deen, practice it as well in secret. And after pledging, giving bay'ah to Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, there was an incident where the Muslims, during this time, because they were praying in secrecy, they would go to different places on the outskirts of Mecca, and they'd go to small little valleys or hiding places, and there they would pray. And during this time, while they're praying, a group of rowdy youth from Quraysh or Kuffar, the Mushrikeen, they come to and they find the Muslims praying there. They start mocking them, they start, berating them, and hurting them, attacking them, and so on. Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas, when he finishes praying, he picks up a bone that's lying around of a camel, and he throws it so forcefully that it hits the face of one of the Mushrikeen, and it brings blood spurting from his face. SubhanAllah, he was so strong, even at that young age. He was so strong in defending the Muslims against the enemies. SubhanAllah, and this is something also for us. We should not be someone who just tries to get muscles and become fit or a six pack and so on, just because we want other people to look good. We want to look good on Instagram and so on, or you want to have that muscles and it's that strength to actually be able to use it for the deen, to use it for something good, use it for Islam, not just wrestling or so on. Use it for the deen. So there are two major traits that were found in Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas, which were not found in many other people, and other Sahaba even at the time. And the first one is that during the Battle of Uhud, when the Muslims, this is before the tide began to turn, and the Muslims were attacking and they were winning the battle against the Quraysh, his marksmanship was so accurate. He was someone who was very handy with a bow and arrow. And when the Prophet ﷺ saw the marksmanship, he was so impressed and so happy. He wished him to continue good work. He says, "Irmi ya Sa'ad," because may my parents, may my mother and father be sacrificed for you. The fact that he was so happy with him that he would say that even may my parents be sacrificed for you, that is something that not many Muslims, must have, and that, honor of having the statement said to them by the Prophet ﷺ. And this was not only the one glad tiding that Prophet ﷺ had, the other glad tiding he had for Sa'd ibn Waqqas, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he had prayed to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that Allah would accept every single dua that Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas made. And after that, when he made the dua, whenever Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas prayed to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, his dua and his supplication would always be answered. All the other Sahaba used to value him very, very highly. And the whole of, by this time, by the time Muslims had conquered Mecca, the whole of Arabia had already heard of Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas, because he had two weapons that he was famous for. He was his arrow, his archery, and then his dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He never missed with his aim. with his arrows. Allah. And there's a narration about his power of his dua is that one day he heard a man grumbling. When he went to him, heard him what he was saying, this man was actually cursing Talha and Ali and Zubayr. Allah anhum. Allah, he was cursing them. And when this person refused to stop, and Sa'ad, he loses his temper after some time, telling him to stop. He says that if this man doesn't control his tongue about the Sahaba, he's going to make dua against it. Then the man responds, saying, "How dare you? You're saying you have powers that you say you got powers, and are you a prophet?" And Sa'ad is upset by this, and he walks away. He makes dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He says, "Oh Allah, this man is abusing men of purity, with whom you yourself are pleased with because of their goodness. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make this man a lesson for other men." When he had barely done with this dua, when people saw that a camel had broken away from a rope which was tearing her to a wall, and within a few minutes, this camel had ran to this person who'd been cursing the Sahaba and killed him, subhanAllah. That's all that person did was curse the Sahaba. All Sa'ad ibn Waqqas, he made this dua against this person and it was accepted instantly. SubhanAllah. There is no doubt that if any one person abuses the Sahaba, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes them an example for others. Even in this case, and the love of the Sahaba is something that every Muslim should have. And we even see, even among the Sahaba, they had so much love for each other. So why, as Muslims, can we not have love for them? Allah. And now, in terms of his military expertise, he was someone who was very, very skilled in battle. He was someone who was very aspiring as a commander. During their first exploits, the Muslims' first exploits into Iran, into Persia, Muslims, they suffered a huge defeat when they first one of the major battles when they first entered. And Umar ibn al-Khattab, he's the Khalifa at this time, and he gets really upset by this. And then he decides that this time I'm going to lead the army to defeat the Persians. He's ready. He prepares himself. He starts leaving. The Sahaba say, "No, you got to stop. You got to stop because we can't just lose our Khalifa just like that. We'll choose someone in your place to go, but you can't go." And he was desperate to go. He was desperate to lead the Muslim army. And then eventually, he has to, of course, he decides to, step back as the Shura request. And the Shura then suggests to him that, here's somebody he can send instead. Sa'ad ibn Abi Waqqas. And from then, Sa'ad becomes the leader of the main advances into Persia. And on the battle of one of the major battles that he fought in was Al-Qadisiyah. And Al-Qadisiyah is honestly one of the greatest battles of Islamic history, because not only were the Muslims vastly outnumbered, but they were also, they were faced by weapons they'd never seen before. They were faced by elephants. These elephants had crushed the Muslims before. Yet Sa'ad ibn Waqqas, with his expertise, he was able to defeat these elephants, because what he would instruct his archers to do is fire into the arrows of the elephants, because once they're blind, they'll start, they won't be able to see where they're going, and in fact, they will start destroying the army of the Persians before they come and attack the Muslims. So through this strategy of Sa'ad ibn Waqqas, he was able to, vanquish a great army with one of the best commanders of Persia. And at this time as well, that he also another command he made to also defeat that huge Persian army was he ordered for camels to, and with those camels he would paint them black, and he would dress them up. He would send them running after the armies of the Persians, because that would be, they see that as something scary. And using these tactics, he was able to weaken not only the morale, but in the entire army of the Persians, eventually, until they completely destroyed them within a few weeks. Allah. And just prior to this battle, a delegation had been sent from Umar ibn al-Khattab to the leader of the Persians. And when he had come, they presented to him the letter of Prophet ﷺ saying that accept Islam or pay jizya, or we'll come and conquer you. and the arrogant leader orders for a bucket of soil collected, and with this bucket of soil, he takes it and says it the delegation himself a bag of soil as an act of disrespect. However, what the Sahaba do is they see this basket of soil, they say, okay, we're taking it back with us. And when they go back to the camp of the Muslims and they go to Sa'd ibn Waqqas, they say that, look, you know, they say, congratulations, because the Iranian emperor has himself given us the land. SubhanAllah, they took advantage of the situation. And instead of, being really pessimistic and saying, we've been disgraced, they were always full of positivity. They were always ready to go. They were saying, the time is now. Let's go and fight. We will conquer the Muslim lands and bring Islam to the corners of the world. And this was the dedication that the Sahaba had at that time that we really need to have as well. We should not be people who are always afraid, to say, this is what we believe in. We don't hide aspects of our religion for the non-Muslims. Everything is there for us. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made it sent us that everything. His religion is perfect. Why should we be scared of it? SubhanAllah. We should not be scared of our religion. Religion is perfect from start to end. Allah. And wallahi, if people truly knew the rewards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has promised, even if you suffer because people don't like what you're saying, subhanallah, the rewards that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to give to you in the next world are going to be 1,000,000,000 times greater than anything you'd ever get in this world. Allah. And during this battle as well, it's also notable of Al-Qadisiyah is, even though they achieved such a great victory, the majority of the time Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas was actually ill. He would not be able to walk or sit down or even let alone go and ride and fight. He was lying down most of the time because he was so ill, and he would give commands to the army from his bed. Allah. And even with those, he managed to order the army to destroy the enemies of Allah. And another tactic he also used was that he broke up the army into groups. He would send up one huge group of the army first, and he would wait for a few days in order for the next part of the army to move forward to the front lines, and so on and so on. So in fact, the Persians would decrease their morale, and they would believe that this army keeps growing and growing and growing. This is an unstoppable force. Every time we kill 100, we get 1,000 more to replace them. And other great Sahaba in this battle was also Al-Qa'qa' ibn Habl. Al-Qa'qa' was the one who destroyed. He was the one from Banu Asad who led a group of Muslims to kill the elephants and them, thus bring victory to the Muslims. And after this great battle of Al-Qadisiyah, the advances of the Muslims under Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas went from the small part, from the outskirts, all the way to the great cities of Al-Madian and so on. They managed to conquer so many cities, and there was so many riches back. And there's a narration as well about when they came to Madian, they found all the riches of the previous ruler of Persia, and they sent it back to Umar radiallahu anhu in Medina. When Umar radiallahu anhu sees this, he calls for a person, a Sahabi, who had basically had hidden helped Muhammad during the Hijrah, and he calls for this person to come, and he says, and because Muhammad because as reward for him accepting Islam and protecting Rasulullah from the Quraysh who were after him, he said that, did you know that eventually you'll wear the bracelets, the jewelry of Kisra. You'll wear the bracelets, the jewelry of the ruler of Persia. And this is the time when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he fulfilled his promise, and the Muslims, they've completely decimated an empire. They've fulfilled everything that Prophet ﷺ has told them about. He said that you will see you'll see Yemen, you will see Rome, you will see Persia. And now, after all these years, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has fulfilled this promise, and now they are one of the greatest powers in the world. And although Sa'd and he also obviously has done so many of these victories, he was incredibly humble as well. When he entered the cities of Madian, he was constantly reciting the Quran about how he would say he recited the Quran about how people had come before and after, and they became so absorbed with power, and then Allah Subhanahu wa Taala had taken it away from them, and he was reminding himself to be humble. And and then after some time, obviously with all the victories and the Muslim world is at its peak at this time, uh, Umar ibn Khattab becomes a shaheed in Medina, radiallahu anhu, and eventually he passes away. Then what happens after that is that uh, to make sure the world's Muslim world stays stable, Umar radiallahu anhu appoints a shura, and within that shura, they eventually choose Uthman radiallahu anhu. But also, one of the people who are actually, they wanted a possible candidate for the Khilafah was Sa'd ibn Waqqas, because of how great he was and how humble he was, how cunning he was. He was one of the greatest Sahabi, and he had so many virtues that Prophet ﷺ had, spoken about him a lot. And after this, even later, after the Khilafah began to the Muslim world entered this fitan, between Ali and Muawiyah and during the Umayyad times, but still he kept himself away from all of that, and he focused instead on working towards good between them. He will say, to his family, it's terrible. The swords of the Muslims were working against the Muslims rather than against the kuffar, as he had led them before. And when he was 80 years old, and 54 years after Hijrah, while living in seclusion in Al-Aqiq, away from all the infighting, his father, in his son, describes the last few words of his father before he passed away, subhanAllah. And he says that, my father's head was in my lap. His eyes were losing their focus. And his son, he says, I started crying because I see my father, after all these years, he's passing away. And he asks, why are you crying? He says, be at ease, be itma'in, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he's sure that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not give him any punishment in the hereafter. Allah, because of the glad tidings he's already got from Prophet ﷺ. He said that Prophet ﷺ has told me that I am one of those promised paradise, so I am not worried, I'm happy, I'm ready. And while he's lying in the state, while he's about to pass away, he points towards a cupboard. And in this cupboard, there's a very, very old sheet. It's brought out. This very, very old sheet that he has is actually a cloth he had worn on the Battle of Badr, and he wanted to wear this cloth he had worn on the Battle of Badr in the first battle he fought with the Muslims, to be used as his kafan. No matter if he was old, that piece of cloth that he wore, when Muhammad ﷺ told him, "Ilmi ya Sa'd, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, may my parents be sacrificed for you, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept every dua." When that was when he wore that clothing, that's when Muhammad ﷺ said that. He kept that piece of clothing until he died, and he said, I want to be buried in this kafan. And eventually he passed away, subhanAllah, 80 years old, 54 years after Hijrah, after making so many great achievements in the Muslim world. Among the Mujahideen, the great Mujahideen of the time, was one of the last of those Mujahideen, the commanders, who returned to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He lived the longest, and he was buried in Jannatul Baqi'. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us allow us to learn from such great people of our times. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, make us from those who, enjoin the good and forbid the evil. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, make us from those who, who, even though we may achieve a lot for Islam, we are very humble. We will strive to achieve more and more and more. We are never satisfied with how much we can do for Islam. We keep going. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us from those who are, are really ready, desire shahada, desire martyrdom. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bring us together with the Sahaba and the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. مع الذين أنعم الله عليهم من النبيين والصديقين والشهداء والصادقين وحسن أولئك رفيقا وصلى الله وسلم على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين.